Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 14-team PPR mock draft from the 14th overall spot. Inside of today's video, I'll be going in-depth into my thought process as I make every single pick inside of this draft, as well as talking about some of the picks going on around me that I end up liking, as well as some of the picks that I end up not liking so much. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into this 14-team PPR mock draft from the 14th overall spot. The roster settings of today's mock draft is going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex kicker defense, and 6 bench spots. So without further ado, let's get into this draft. The 14th overall spot is a pretty solid spot to be picking from in a 14-team league. I really like how the rosters I can construct look from the 14th overall spot. So the draft begins with Christian McCaffrey, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Cooper Kupp, Najee Harris, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, and 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. Nothing too strange in the first round, but if I'm being honest with you guys, while I think Nick Chubb is a perfectly acceptable running back to draft in fantasy football, inside of the first round, I really do believe that that is a reach. This team might be complete and utter dog shit for the start of the season without Deshaun Watson. Now, I know, Nick, you've talked about in videos prior that running backs can be successful on bad teams. And while I do believe that could be the case, this could be a very bad situation for Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb doesn't catch passes. It's not like since they're down in the game, they can just dump the ball off to Nick Chubb, because if they're going to dump the ball off, Kareem Hunt is going to be in the game. So I do worry a lot about Nick Chubb, and I really just don't see him having top 5 running back upside. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he finished inside the top 12, or maybe even as a top 10 running back, but inside of the first round, he does not really excite me at all. So we're up to pick here at pick number 14. Looking at the best players available according to Sleeper, we have Stefon Diggs, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Swift, CeeDee Lamb, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Saquon Barkley, Deebo Samuel. Now, in a 10-12 team league, I'm perfectly fine selecting a tight end in the first round, but in a 14-team league, I just don't view the positional advantage at tight end to be as important. So we're not going to go tight end here. We're going to go with the best running back available. And in my opinion, the best running back available right now is DeAndre Swift. Once things swing back around to us at the 3.14, the running backs are going to look not so hot. There's going to be running backs available potentially like Cam Akers, who might even be gone by that point. I don't even like Cam Akers, but he might be gone by the time we get to pick in the 3rd round. David Montgomery, Travis Etienne, Breece Hall are looking like our best running backs by the time things come back at the 3.14, and they may not even be there if other players in this draft start to fucking panic. They start thinking, oh man, the running backs are not going to come back to me if I don't reach, and then people are going to reach. Running backs are very, very scarce in fantasy football, especially running backs that you like committing to week in and week out. Running backs that you will be excited to start week in and week out. In a 14-team league, that is even more difficult to find. So I personally believe in a 14-team league, I am looking to go aggressive on the running backs early. Now, of course, if we're sitting here at the 2.1 and Devontae Adams was available, I would probably smash the draft button on him, but he's not available. Sure, people like Stefon Diggs. I personally prefer Devontae Adams. So here, we're going to go with yet another running back. I think that there are a couple of running backs that you can go with at this pick. Aaron Jones or Saquon Barkley would be the two I would look for here. We're going to go ahead and go with Saquon Barkley. Some people might believe that Saquon's risky because Saquon hasn't looked good over the last couple of years and he's been banged up. None of those injuries are correlated at all. It seems like a bunch of freak accidents happening to Saquon Barkley. I think this Giants team will be better in 2021 or 2022, I should say, when compared to 2021. So I like Barkley. Aaron Jones would have been perfectly acceptable as well. Aaron Jones might even be considered safer in your mind. After Saquon Barkley comes Stefon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Travis Kelce, Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, Ron Jones, Josh Allen, Leonard Fournette, Mike Evans, Kyle Pitts, Javonte Williams, Keenan Allen. The 3rd opens with James Conner, Justin Herbert, the pervert, A.J. Dillon, Ezekiel Elliott, Cam Akers, Higgins, David Montgomery, Patty Mahomes, George Kittle, Terry McLaurin, Travis Etienne, Darren Waller, and DJ Moore. So now, looking at the running backs, kind of like I predicted, a million running backs went before we got to pick again. And it makes sense because, again, the running backs start to fall off at a very rapid rate. But now we have our 2 running backs. If you want to be super safe, you want to wrap 2 condoms over your fantasy football roster, then you can draft Breece Hall. You can draft Breece Hall because presumably, eventually at some point in the season, Breece Hall will be the workhorse running back for the Jets. Will it happen week 1, week 2, week 3? Maybe, maybe not. I think it might take some time for Breece Hall, but eventually I do believe he will be the workhorse back on this team. So if you want to be super safe, you can take Breece Hall here. The other running backs behind him are very risky in my opinion. Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, J.K. Dobbins, who might get put on the fucking PUP list, and his availability for week 1 doesn't look great. Seems like he could be missing some serious time. I'm getting nervous about Dobbins, so I want to go with wide receiver here. I think taking a quarterback this early in a 14-team league really does hurt your roster at the running back and wide receiver position. So here we're going to go with double wide receivers here. Michael Pittman, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Cortland Sutton, all available. Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams, Allen Robinson. I think basically all of these wide receivers are acceptable to take here at the 3.14 besides DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf is an excellent play in best ball because he's going to have those big games where he could potentially drop 25, 30 plus points in a matchup even if Geno Smith is the starter, but there are going to be some real bad down games for him where he scores like 5 fantasy points, and I just don't want to have to think about that in redraft. I don't want to have to determine when to start DK Metcalf, and if you pull the trigger on him in the 3rd or 4th round, you're going to feel like an asshole having to bench your 3rd or 4th round player every once in a while, so I don't want to be doing that. I'm just going to go with best player available. I want to go with Deontay Johnson. I love Deontay Johnson this season. Deontay Johnson did get banged up slightly. He did hurt his shoulder, but head coach Mike Tomlin told everyone that, hey, if this was a regular season game, Deontay Johnson would have returned to the game. But because the preseason games, they don't fucking matter, you don't want to rush Deontay Johnson out there and have him get hurt again, they put him back on the bench. So I like Deontay Johnson and his role in this offense, regardless of who the starting quarterback is. My best guess, week 1, it will be Kissin' Titties Mitchell Trubisky. Let me know down below in the comment section, who do you think plays more games this year for the Steelers? Do you think it's going to be Mitch Trubisky or the rookie, Kenny Pickett? So we're back up on the board here again. Any of these wide receivers are certainly acceptable in this range. Here we are going to be hunting for as much upside as possible here, and really all these guys are pretty high upside plays. I want to go with Michael Pittman Jr., who could be the number 1 wide receiver on the Indianapolis Colts, and basically is the number 1 receiver on the Colts. I like Alec Pierce late in drafts. I like Mr. Paris Campbell late in drafts. But at the end of the day, none of those guys are going to be able to overtake Michael Pittman as the true number 1 wide receiver on this team unless there's an injury. But I'm not projecting injuries. I don't think Michael Pittman's going to get hurt. So with Matt Ryan there, I think this offense is going to look significantly better than last season with Carson Wentz. So I love Michael Pittman Jr., especially inside of the 4th round. After Pittman, we get Lamar Jackson, followed by Jerry Jeudy, Joe Burrow, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, Cortland Sutton, Antonio Gibson, the short king, Kyler Murray, Elijah Mitchell, Mike Williams, J.K. Dobbins, TJ Hawkinson, Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Dalton Schultz, A.J. Dillon, Hollywood Brown, Michael Thomas, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Hurts, and then Juju Smith-Schuster, Mr. Corvette. So some people, I already know there's going to be comments, Nick, can you please zoom in on the draft board? The issue with the 14-team draft is if I zoom in, then it's going to cut off my pick because a 14-team board is just way too big. So if you're watching this on mobile, I genuinely do apologize, but there is really no better way of doing this. So I'm sorry. But back to our pick here. Looking at the board, some interesting picks came off. Antonio Gibson in the 4th round is fucking stupid. I understand Brian Robinson probably could miss the whole season. He might miss half the season. Whatever. Antonio Gibson is probably the clear number 1 running back now. But even if that is the case, in the 4th round, that is absolutely fucking insane. I am not taking him there. And I really think all these quarterbacks being taken inside the top 4 rounds is bananas. And something you may notice if you're new to 14-team leagues is that things start looking grim early on in the draft, and that's why you need to be so well versed in doing 14-team drafts. So make sure that you do a couple mock drafts before your draft if you are new, and I hope this video really does help you out a ton. Looking at running back, things are really bad. Like Miles Sanders, sure, Miles Sanders is the number 1 running back on the Eagles, sure. But how much of a running back 1 is he? He's not the workhorse back. They're going to use Gainwell. They're going to use Boston Scott. So So the running backs are not looking too hot. Wide receivers, Rashad Master Bateman, Darnell Mooney, DeAndre Hopkins, Gabe Davis, Adam Thielen. I like a lot of these guys, so we're probably just going to go back-to-back wide receivers here. First, we're going with the higher upside play here, which is Darnell Mooney. Should be the number one receiver in Chicago. Very, very, very little competition in this offense. The question is, will this offense be a little bit better without Matt Nagy there? And will Justin Fields take that next step up in year number 2? I personally think the Chicago Bears are going to be atrocious this year, and I think that is going to result in them having to throw the ball a lot during the game, and that is a huge positive for Mr. Darnell. Here comes the Mooney, other wide receiver here. We're to be going with more upside yet again and go with Gabe Davis, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills. Now, if we are referring to my rankings, which are out now, right now on the Stokastic website, they might be linked in the video description. They have been tweeted by me, so they shouldn't be that hard to find. But I do have Adam Thielen, Rashad Bateman ranked ahead of Gabe Davis. The thing is, though, that I do like Gabe Davis in this scenario. We are in a deep league. To win a 14-team league is very difficult, and I genuinely believe you have to differentiate yourself from the rest of the league, and here going with Gabe Davis, I think, is the highest upside pick. Adam Thielen's super safe. You know what Adam Thielen is. He could finish as a top 12 receiver, but Gabe Davis on those big games could absolutely fucking destroy your opponent, so I love Gabe Davis this year as a Buffalo Bill. After Gabe Davis, we see Adam Thielen, followed by DeAndre Hopkins, Cordero Patterson, Miles Sanders, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, Rashad Master Bateman, Dallas Goedert, Tony Pollard, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Smith, Russell Wilson, Mr. Broncos Country. Let's ride. Damian Harris, Drake London, Dickie Dak Prescott, Chase Edmonds, Kenneth Walker, Kareem Hunt, Aaron Jones, Zach Ertz, Elijah Moore, Devin Singletary, Rashad Penny, Dawson Knox one time if you are with me, Tyler Lockett, James Cook, and Christian Kirk. Rashad Penny, the most positive news came out last night for Rashad Penny, and now this is a negative for Kenneth Walker, obviously, but it's a positive for Rashad Penny because Kenneth Walker seems like Pete Carroll isn't too sure when Walker is going to come back, and it seems like Walker could be put on the PUP, the physically unable to participate, like my cock after a late night of drinking. But I really do think that if that is the case and he misses 4 games, then we could see Rashad Penny just take over in this offense, and unless he struggles early on, just be the clear bell cow in year number 1. There's no need for this team that's going to be pretty bad to risk an injury on a guy like Kenneth Walker, again, who they believe is going to be the bell cow back going forward. So just let Rashad Penny rock. Kenneth Walker is an awful pick, but I love Rashad Penny. Looking at running backs here, things are going to start to get really bad. So we're going to go with Dameon Pierce, running back of the Houston Texans. The team cut Marlon Mack. I talked about in yesterday's video that head coach of the team of the Houston Texans doesn't want to name a starter. Dameon Pierce isn't the running back one. Well, cutting Marlon Mack tells us who the number 1 running back is. And if anyone was nervous about Dameon Pierce not being the number 1 running back, then they clearly haven't looked into this situation enough. It's been clear for the last month or two that he is going to be the guy, and I love Dameon Pierce. His ADP is going to keep on rising. So we're back up on the board here. Right now we have 4 wide receivers, 3 running backs, a pretty even start here. Looking at quarterbacks, things are looking fine. I mean, I'm fine having a guy like Winston as my quarterback, but in reality, I want the higher upside plays, the guys that I can rely on week in and week out, and I still like Trey Lance. I understand that Jimmy Garoppolo was brought back in, but I really do believe that's because the team didn't want Jimmy G, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G spot to go to another team and potentially beat the 49ers, potentially be the reason why the 49ers aren't great. So they decide, hey, let's hold him. Trey Lance is the guy. Even if Trey Lance doesn't play super amazing, he's going to be the guy. It would take Trey Lance playing so bad to where he's like a bottom 3 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, for Jimmy Garoppolo to get into the game. I honestly don't believe that Kyle Shanahan even wants Jimmy Garoppolo on this team. I think it's more of just a keep Jimmy Garoppolo away from other teams scenario. So I like Trey Lance here, and I definitely like him better than Matthew Stafford. After we go with Trey Lance comes the worst pick in the draft, the Buffalo Bills defense. Do not take a defense before the last 2 picks of the draft, which are rounds 14 and 15 in this case. Do not do that. Do not take one early. It really does hurt your team a ton. After the Buffalo Bills, we see Brandon Ayuk, Matthew Stafford, Ramondre Stevenson, Alan Lazard, Chris Olave, Derek Carr, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson. The LA Rams defense, Chase Claypool, Melvin Gordon, and Robert Woods. The 9th round opens with Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, Mike Licky, Gesicki, Kadarius Toney. San Francisco defense, the Bucks, Michael Carter, the Ravens, Evan McPherson, Kirk Cousins. You like that? Cole Kmet, Sky with 2 Ys more, and Alexander Madison. There's been a lot of talks about Alexander Madison potentially getting traded from the Vikings. Now, if this happens and he lands on a team that needs a starting running back, then Alexander Mattison could be a guy that you got in the 9th, 10th round that ends up being a guy that catapults himself into potentially the top 4 rounds of the draft because of how good Mattison is. Now, do I believe right now that it is a lock that he is going to be traded before the season? I don't think that's a lock, and I'm not even sure it's a lock that he even gets traded this year. So it is going to be something very interesting to follow. You could end up finding a gem late in the draft here with Alexander Mattison if he gets traded, but if not, he really has no value unless Dalvin Cook gets hurt. Looking at tight end, I'm fine with waiting some more. I don't really see a big difference between a lot of these tight ends until you get all the way down here, and then you have to have like fucking Evan Ingram as your starting tight end, then things are looking a little bit gross. Looking at running backs, we have James Robinson, Darrell Henderson, Nyheim Hines, Isaiah Spiller, Rashad White, Brian Robinson, Kenneth Gainwell. Looking at receivers, we got Tyler, Boyd, Julio Jones, MVS, Jarvis Landry, Russell Gage. So there's going to be some receivers I like later. There aren't going to be very many running backs I like later or I feel comfortable with. Again, I'm comfortable with Swift and Barkley being the guys, but maybe Dameon Pierce really does end up playing fantastic, and they both have the same bye week, so we definitely need another running back that has a different bye week. Here we will go with Nyheim Hines, running back of the Indianapolis Colts. There's been a lot of talk all offseason about Nyheim Hines working in the offense at the exact same time as Jonathan Taylor. Frank Reich in May, I believe, even said that he would draft Nyheim Hines on his fantasy football team this season, so maybe that means something positive for Mr. Nyheim Hines this season. We do know he has a lot of great pass catching ability, and maybe the fact that Carson Wentz just sucks ass at dumping off the ball, maybe that's why Nyheim Hines didn't have as great of a season last year in 2021. So we're up here. We're going to go with a wide receiver. I feel like we have some pretty solid players here. Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, Gabe Davis. So I'm just going to go with a little bit more of a safer pick, but with some upside. If someone was to get hurt in Cincinnati, that being either Mr. T. Higgins or Jamar Chase, we don't root for injuries, then Tyler Boyd could be a humongous splash play that ends up finishing as a top 12 receiver in points per game while either Higgins or Chase are gone. But even if they're both healthy, Tyler Boyd is still a player with a decent amount of upside, especially in games where the Bengals put up a crazy amount of points. So I'm all in on Tyler Boyd. I've been a huge fan of this guy his whole career, so I'll continue to draft him in fantasy football. After we go with Boyd comes Justin Tucker, the fucker, Albert O, Daniel Carlson, James Robinson, Julio Jones, MVS, Dallas Goedert, Matt Gay, Darrell Henderson, Tyler Bass, Harrison Butker, Packers D, Saints D, Jarvis Landry, Hunter Henry, Chargers D, Tua Tagovailoa, Isaiah Spiller, Russell Gage, Matt Prater, Tyler Higbee, Rashad White, my old bitch lame but my young ho coup, Michael Gallup, Rondale Moore, Christian Watson, and now we are back up on the board. But before we make our next pick here in the 11th round, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor of today's video. They've been on our screen the whole entire video, Underdog Fantasy, the best place to play fantasy football this summer, and in my opinion, the best place to prepare for your fantasy football drafts. Underdog Fantasy is a best ball website, which basically means that you draft your team and that's it. You don't have to worry about making trades. There's no trades, there's no waiver wire, and you don't even have to worry about setting your lineup, because at the end of the week, Underdog will automatically give you the best lineup based upon the players that score the most amount of points on your team and automatically throw them into the lineup for you. If you use promo code Stokastic, STOKASTIC, you'll receive a $100 first match deposit bonus. So if you deposit $100, you will get $200 total dollars. Your $100 plus the $100 the website gives you, and you'll also be receiving our best ball and fantasy football draft kit for 100% free. Please make sure they use promo code Stokastic on Underdog Fantasy and their big tournament, $25 to enter, $2 million to first place, a $10 million total prize pool. Make sure you guys do check out Underdog Fantasy. Again, promo code Stokastic. I love drafting on there. I do those drafts all the time. So we're back up on the board here. We probably want to finish with 5 running backs. So we're going to go another running back and a receiver. We also eventually do need a tight end. And there is a point, like I said, where things start to get gross at tight end. I'm fine drafting Njoku, right? I'm not excited about Njoku, but I also don't think he sucks ass. Like, I like Irv Smith. Banged up earlier on the offseason, but he should be good to go for week 1. Here we'll go with Njoku. Njoku has a legitimate case of being the clear number 2 target on the team. I understand, Nick, you talked a little bit earlier about how you think Cleveland's going to be ass when you talked about Nick Chubb until Deshaun Watson comes back. And yes, I believe that, but Jacoby Brissett is going to have to throw the fucking ball to someone. And besides Amari Cooper, the second best target on the team is either Kareem Hunt or David Njoku. So I think we could see a big year out of Njoku, and he got a pretty solid contract in the offseason. So after you go with David Njoku, now we're going to go ahead and go with with a running back and a wide receiver. If you're nervous about Njoku, I'm fine taking another tight end, right? Because this is a 14-team league. If people take 2 tight ends, 28 tight ends are gone, right? If everyone takes 2 tight ends. So maybe you're a little bit more nervous, you can take 2 tight ends. I'm not going to do that, but you can. I don't believe you should be taking 2 quarterbacks unless you think everyone's going to be taking 2, and then I'm fine taking a backup, right? If everyone's going to take 2, and then you're on the waiver wire in what week is Lance on bye? Week 9. You're sitting in week 9, and fucking Mark Sanchez is the best quarterback available. I know he's not in the NFL, but you get the point, right? Some garbage can quarterback is the only guy available. Sure, you can take 2, but a good rule of thumb is not to take 2. Same thing goes with the tight end position. I think I can find someone to stream in week 9 when both Lance and Njoku are on bye. So we're back up here, and we are going to be going with a running back and a receiver, like I said. Looking at the running back position, Brian Robinson is interesting. Obviously, I understand that he got shot. He was at the team's facility yesterday, and it was very impressive, like how happy the guy looked. I'm rooting for him a ton. I hope that he is able to play this year. I don't think that is a lock that he's going to play this year. So I'm not going to draft him, but I hope he's okay. He looks okay. He even fulfilled his rookie duties and brought the running back room snacks. I saw him bring the team some fucking Oreos. So great job on Brian Robinson. I like that guy. I loved him a lot prior to what happened, and I hope he is able to play this season. And it's going to be very interesting to see, because I assume maybe over the next couple of days we will have a legitimate report on how long an injury like this, like how long that's going to take for him to come back, and if he will be able to play this season. I want to go with Tyler Algier here. I understand that the Atlanta Falcons have a stink around them, right? It's not like Marcus Mariota is all that great, but Algier could be the #1 running back in this offense. I know they have Cordero Patterson, but in reality, Cordero Patterson is better used on this team, which has 0 wide receivers outside of Drake London as a wide receiver. So I think Tyler Algier could be seeing some decent work, and he has looked good in the preseason action that we have seen. Preseason obviously over now, and we're less than 2 weeks until the NFL season, baby. I'm so excited. After Tyler Algier comes Brian Robinson. The Colts defense, Kenny Gainwell, Romeo Dubes, Devontae Parker, Famous Jameis, Ida W. Winston, Justin Fields, Jahan Dotson, Rodrigo, You Sunk My Blankenship, Irv Smith, Trevor Lawrence, Maki Mock Ingram, Brandon McManus, Jacoby Myers, Nick Folk, Khalil Herbert, Jameson Williams, Jalen Tolbert, J.D. McKissick, Noah Fant, DJ Chark, Patriots defense, Broncos defense, Ronald Jones, Marlon Mack, and Deshaun Watson. So we are back up on the board here, and we need a wide receiver now. Since we went with the running back there, we're going to have 6 wide receivers on the squad, I believe. Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, that's 3. Gabe Davis, 4. Tyler Boyd, 5. So this will be our 6 wide receiver, and we have 5 running backs. Pretty even build, pretty accurate to what I would be looking to do in my 14-team PPR draft, which I'm drafting next Sunday. Very excited for that. Or not next Sunday. It's this Sunday. Because next Sunday is football. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Guys, I do really love football. I'm so fucking pumped for the season. It feels like a drag when it starts getting into August. It's like, oh, it's so close, but it feels so far. But we're finally knocking on the door to football season. So we're up here. Kenny Golladay looks like dog shit. I'm not drafting him. We're going to go with my main man, Nico Collins here. Bigger bodied wide receiver. For the Texans, 6'4", 215 pounds. Didn't have the greatest rookie season, but this year, I mean, Davis Mills is kind of underrated in my opinion, so maybe Nico Collins plays pretty well this year. There's really no competition for him to be the #2 wide receiver behind Brandon Cooks. So now we're going to go with a defense. We're going to continue to target defenses that are going up against not-so-hot opponents week 1. Baker Mayfield did say he was going to absolutely butt-fuck the Cleveland Browns, basically, but the Browns defense is still pretty good, and even if the Browns defense isn't so good in week 1, the rest of their schedule for the first 4 weeks is very soft. So I like the Browns a ton, and we will have a defense video coming out very soon for you guys. I believe it comes out tomorrow. As you guys are watching this video was recorded last night, so that could be out so early in the morning. After the Cleveland Browns, we see Mr. Jamal with 2 A's Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, Isaiah McKenzie, double Isaiah back-to-back, Mystic Mac Jones, Matt Ryan, Chuba Hubbard, Kenny Golladay, Robert Tonyan, Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman, Raheem Mostert, Odell Beckham Jr., Zamir White, Alec Pierce, Hayden Hurst, Wandale Robinson, Gerald Everett, Austin Hooper, Kenny Pickett, KJ Osborne, Robbie Gould, Deontay Foreman, Tyrion Davis Price, Steelers defense, Will Lutz, and Taysom Hill. All right, so here we're going to close the draft out with a kicker, best kicker available here. We're going to go ahead and get my main man. He should still be here, right? Jason Sanders. This is a deeper draft. I want to get my boy Jason Sanders, kicker of the Dolphins. I understand he struggled last year. They did give him a big contract prior to last season, but the reason why he struggled was because the guy that was holding the kick for the team was shit. He's not going to be the placeholder or the kick holder, whatever the fuck you call that guy, and looks like Sanders is a lot better now, so makes sense that he was struggling last year. So our roster is comprised of, we're going to have to do the electric slide here to recap our draft real quick here. So our roster is comprised of, on the right of our screen, we went DeAndre Swift, followed by Saquon Barkley, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Gabe Davis, my main man, Damian Pierce, Trey Lance, Nyheim Hines, Tyler, yeah, Boyd, David Njoku, Tyler Algier, Nico Collins, Cleveland Browns defense, and Jason Sanders. If I drafted this in my real draft, I probably would have ejaculated in my pants multiple times. This team looks amazing. Chef's kiss, Manu Fweek. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. My mic is slowly disintegrating here because I moved myself, and apparently that fucks everything up. So I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. Make sure you check out promo code Stokastic on Underdog Fantasy. It would help us out a ton if you hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. I love you guys a ton. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.